Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of A Happy Moment. My name is Dan. Glad to have all of you with us today. I do have a very special guest. He is the host of the Media Magpie podcast. Please welcome Connor Cunneen. Connor, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Glad to have you with us today. And I do want to point something out real quick, so as to not cause any confusion. About a month ago, I had a guest on the show by the name of Connor Cunneen. So it's this is two completely different Connor Cunneens. It's
That's insane. Wow,
about a month apart from each other.
that's quite odd. There you go. There's more of me around, I guess.
Yeah, and the only difference is the Connor I'm talking to right now has two N's in his first name, whereas the other one only had one N in Connor. But
Yep,
anyways,
I've met one of those before. I actually, funnily enough, matched on LinkedIn with one of those. So yeah, that makes sense.
all right. Well, Connor likes to talk about all things movies, games, music, um, all things pop culture. Connor, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to develop an interest in these things?
Yeah, well, yeah. So, yeah. Again, my name's Connor. And I guess I sort of developed an interest in, you know, movies and like I guess, video games growing up because when I was growing up, my dad, back when I was a kid, he got a PS1, which sounds that's like a long time ago now, and realistically he would be playing it, but he was showing me the ropes on how to do it, and that sort of sparked the interest from there. And I've always just sort of been big in technology, and then I guess to and I'd always like to mess around and everything. And then a part of the technology that happens and is the media or the pop culture that comes from it. And I guess I always took an interest in that when I had spare time, and I was like, oh, this is intriguing. And then playing my first browser games and sort of figuring out what I liked, and then finally, probably one of my first games I ever got was Minecraft, and getting into that, which I really liked. And it sort of just started from there and just sort of figuring out my interest and everything. And then as I grew up, I realized that I sort of really liked talking about this type of stuff. Like I could probably talk for a long time about it. And then it was actually during COVID that I started my first podcast a while ago, which was sort of just a trial and error podcast just to have fun with a mate. And then that sort of went all right. It took off, like it was just friends listening to it. Wasn't really serious. We're just having fun. And then COVID finished. We sort of didn't really do much with it, but I did want to do it again. I was really keen on it. And then I realized, well, why don't I just talk about, something I enjoy and then something I can just really talk about. So I thought I'd start this podcast. I'd start the podcast about, all things pop culture and things I like and see what happens. And yeah, so.
All right. Now, is there a story behind the name of your podcast, Media Magpie?
Yeah, I was trying to find something that was like basically I wanted to make it something that was Australian, like, but without giving it away, because I want people to know where I come from and what my nationality is. So I mean, and I was just brainstorming ideas on what I should do, and I wanted it to just make sense. And a magpie it's an animal in Australia, like very well known in Australia. And then it just sort of I thought about that, and I was like, what can I do with that? And it just sort of clicked. So I wanted to make it something that people know who I am, like from the get go, that I'm Australian and that's who I am. And just I don't know, just sort of I guess just something like a branding thing. But yeah, I was just trying to spitball names, and that's what sort of came up.
Well, it does have a nice ring to it, Media Magpie.
Yeah,
I'd say it's
yeah,
unique too.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, Now, Connor, um, you said one of the earliest games you remember enjoying was Minecraft. Um, do you still play a lot of Minecraft, or have you branched out into like different genres?
I played a bit. I still play it every so often. Like whenever there's like a new decent update, I play it. You know, with the Caves update, that was very interesting. I played a bit of that. I don't play it so much as anymore. I do have a little brother, and he's grown up to like it as well. So I lend him my computer to play it for him to play it. So he plays for me. But in regards to other genres of games, yeah, I would say I'm like an all round gamer. Like I play lots of different type of games, but I would say probably my main favorite genre of games is storytelling games because there's just something in them with how people tell their stories and how they're betrayed. Especially in particular, one of my favorites, The Last of Us. It's a very emotional and story-driven game, and it's not only is it linear, so it's not choose your own one, but it still gets me every time, and it's just the connection that the characters all have in the game, particularly Joel and Ellie, who are the main two characters in that game. Yeah, just storytelling games, they're something different, man. It's like, some of the ones now, it's like you're watching a movie, but then also interacting with it in a game. It's honestly crazy the stuff that people do with that. Like there's so many talented people out there who are so creative in their mind, and honestly, yeah, the work they do is insane, and it's a passion for them. So yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy to see how far video games have advanced over the years.
yeah,
And I'm with you on the storytelling games because nothing beats a game with a good story. I think those are the best ones. I'm a big fan of the RPGs like Mass Effect, Dragon Age, and a lot of the old school ones like Chrono Trigger, uh, Final Fantasy 3 on the Super Nintendo. Uh, love those games.
yeah.
You into RPGs at all?
Um, I would probably say that's probably one of the like lower genres on my like list of games that I play. But like, I don't mind RPGs. I don't mind them. Sometimes I find it hard to get into like role playing that character or getting into the game sometimes with RPGs. And and I don't know, and some of the RPGs for me, it's sort of like I guess, how do I put it? I don't know. When I play it, I don't feel like I enjoy it as much. Some of them are interesting, but like I still like RPGs, but I would say it's not the highest on my list. But they're still fun. I mean, I did like Final Fantasy. That's a good one. I can't remember which ones I played of that, but I do like Final Fantasy.
Okay, that's fair. Uh, one of the things I like about the RPGs like Dragon Age is I just like going around and making my character be a jerk to everybody because you can't do that in real life, so it's fun to
No,
just kind of
yeah,
mess around with people in a video game and do all kinds of horrible things. But
yeah. I'm sure a lot of people probably did that. Honestly, that's yeah.
how about movies? What are some of your favorite movies that you enjoy?
Again, same. I'm sort of an all rounder when it comes to movies, and I guess obviously movies all have stories. But I, if I had to pick a favorite genre, that's pretty hard. I mean, a long time ago, and this is a long, long time ago, I would say that horror used to be my favorite genre because I used to. It was so weird. I used to like be addicted to, because obviously when you get scared, you get adrenaline rush and everything. I used to love the adrenaline rush that would come from movies. That was a long time ago, and that was a bit of a weird phase for me. But now when I watch horror movies, I get scared shitless, and I don't want to watch them anymore. I don't enjoy that thrill. But I would probably say action sci-fi movies are probably my favorite. And but then again, some like they're probably the ones I watch the most. But probably my favorite movie, which isn't really action or sci-fi, is probably I would say Baby Driver. If you've heard of that one,
I believe I've heard of it, but I never watched it.
yeah. So it's basically about this guy who his backstory: his mum got into an accident. There was a crash. He has tinnitus, so he has some humming in his ears, and basically some stuff happens. He ends up being a getaway driver for some criminals, and the sort of story goes from there. And he, lives his life, and he finds then the woman of his dreams, and then realizes, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to help these criminals. I want to break free. So then stuff happens, and it goes from there. But it's very the director who made it. Edgar Wright, which he's an amazing director. He's done. I'm sure you've seen Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. I'm sure you've heard of those ones. And yeah, no, he's like amazing, like director. And I mean, he for this movie in particular, since his mum was a singer and she gave him like music, this movie's heavily based on the music. Like the scenes are sort of matched with the music. Like when the the wind the like the wipers of the car when they're driving the car match with the music, the shutting of the back of the trunk of the doors, everything. Like everything's matched with the music. And there weren't like songs that were made for the movie. It was like pre-made songs that were made before the movie. So the director had some ones he picked and sort of just matched the story and all the actions in it with those songs. And it's pretty crazy. It's bizarre. It's probably one of my favorite movies because it matches um visuals with music and almost like down to the T. So it's pretty bizarre, but it's a good movie. I would recommend watching it.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. It sounds pretty unique. Do you know of any other movies that have done that? Like with the music and the way they match it to the scenes?
Um, Not off the top of my head. I'm sure there's some that I've seen. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I'm sure there is some out there, like, but yeah, no. This is the one that I've just loved, and I've probably watched it too many times to count. But yeah, no, it's really good.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to check it out. Do you know if it's streaming anywhere right now?
I believe it might be on Netflix. I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on it, but just have a look around.
Okay,
I'm sure if you search it up, it will come up. So,
yeah, yeah. Do you, um, where you live, do you still have a movie theater?
yes, we still do have movie theaters, thank God. I mean, unfortunately, we don't have, I mean, no one has it anywhere but what was it called? Uh, what was that place where you could go and borrow like DVDs?
Oh, like a
I can't,
Blockbuster?
Blockbuster, yeah. Nah. We don't
Yeah.
have, obviously, no one has Blockbusters anymore. Oh, except I think there is one in America. There's one still in America, if I'm correct. It might be gone. Don't. But I
Yeah,
still remember the Blockbuster in my suburb, and I still remember where it is. And now it's a gym. Now the spot's a gym, and it was sitting there, no one was using, it, and then they finally turned it into a gym. But I still remember as a kid, my dad taking me there and just I was flicking through all the movies and flicking through all the video games that I'd want to buy or rent. And I think we didn't go there a lot, but we went there like it was enough for me to remember it. But again, yeah, it's such a long time ago. It's crazy to think about that Blockbuster used to be a thing before streaming services. But now it's all about streaming services. And there's so many of them. It's like sometimes if you want to watch a show, you have to get a free trial for another one just to watch something because it's on something else. It's like, I want
yeah,
to watch this. Oh, it's on Paramount Plus. I want to watch this. Oh, it's on Stan. And now this Stan has sports as well. Like it's crazy. And then there's all these different ones that are only exclusive to like I guess America or different states. But then they do put it on different streaming services as the other shows. But still, it's all weird and new. Well, not new, but yeah,
yeah,
it's it's the thing that took over Blockbuster. So yeah,
yeah. I haven't seen a Blockbuster or like a physical movie rental place in quite a few years now.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, like you,
they're
I
not
remember
really
going.
much around anymore.
Yeah, I
It's
remember
all the
going to
digital
the.
age now.
Yeah, like going to those as a kid too, and I remember just like looking at all the covers of the horror movies and being like, "Wow, I wish I could rent those." And yeah, that's weird. So physical rental places have gone away in favor of streaming. Um, we see uh similar things with video games too. You can't go to like a store and like rent those anymore.
Mm.
You either have to buy a physical copy or in most cases now buy a digital copy of the game. Um, so I mean, how do you feel about that? Like about like physical media kind of fading away?
I mean, I guess it was sort of to be expected, as as technology sort of grown and adapted, that was going to be sort of the case. But I feel like it won't fully fade away for a long time. Like vinyls. People can still buy vinyls for music. People can still buy CDs. I'm pretty sure you could probably find out there. People still obviously have VHS tapes, and then you could probably find a VHS player. Like, I don't think it will ever fully fade. It's just that there won't be anything new probably made from, I guess. You could probably buy older stuff. So I guess, but then again, that's not, it's, then again, yeah. People still make CDs at the moment now, but yeah, when the digital age is fully in motion, which who knows when that will be, but yeah, I feel like eventually will fade, but not for a very, very long time. There will be something that's like physical. Like video games still get physical discs if you buy it on consoles. I feel like that will be for a while until consoles go full digital. So that will probably be maybe gaming might be the last one standing, or maybe even music. Who knows? But it's interesting. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, it's easier to like switch between music and video games. Like for example, I have Spotify, so it's easier to flick through. And I have to go through discs and put them in. But then I recently was at a friend's place and we're watching Doctor Who on discs, which I've never watched them on disc before. And then you get to see the little menus they make, and then how they have on the disc. They have like the bloopers and everything, and it's like sometimes they don't include that on the on the streaming services or in the digital bits. So you miss some bits, like the artworks in the video games and in the covers. It's just So I don't know. It's kind of sad if that fully fades away, because then there's not really, they don't put that effort into all that other stuff. It's all just digital now. You don't have a physical thing. So I don't know. I kind of wish it. I hope it still goes for a long time, because I don't want the world to be all digital. We need something physical.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I haven't bought um a physical video game in a while, so correct me if I'm wrong, but don't physical and digital copies of the same game cost the same amount?
Yeah, yeah. They tend to do. Yeah, I mean they
It-
pretty much cost the same amount. So
But you would think the digital should be cheaper because you're not manufacturing an actual disc.
yeah, I mean I think some. I'm not. Again, don't quote me on it. There might be some games that are digital that are cheaper, but I believe most, at least big games now these days that are still like, I guess, the AAA games and the companies from like Ubisoft and that it's still the same. But yeah, you're right. That makes sense. They don't have to really ship it out, so you'd think it'd be cheaper. But I guess they still want them. They still make it the same price.
Yeah, I know one of the things that bugs me about some modern games, uh, like some games now require that you always be connected to the internet, which is, I think that's kind of lame, especially since not everyone has access to the internet. Um, but like I know for a while where I used to live, I didn't. It was just wasn't available in the area. Um, but I guess it is what it is. Is can't change that. I think we're headed more and more towards that direction too. Um, with requiring to be online for stuff, but eh. Um, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with you, but yeah, I 100% agree. And I mean, definitely with COVID, that sort of kicked everyone, like, not to bring that up too much, but obviously that was what made people realize that we could do a lot of stuff digitally, like work. People do work digitally now, like from home, and like everyone knew that you could do it, but until COVID, we didn't know how, like, how well it could work. No one really did it because they were used to going into work, used to it, so they just stuck to what they were used to and stick to that. But then when we were forced in our homes and had to do that, we're like, hang on, this is something I can mix this up, and I can, like, my parents, they work from home sometimes, so like, you know, it's interesting. And that, I think that with COVID, that's sort of pushed probably technology and made it it's probably definitely going to go a bit closer and closer to that, to people realizing that, hey, we don't really need to go outside to do work anymore, or go outside to do other things. I mean, I would hope no one, I would hate to see that the world is digital age where we all have VR headsets on and we just go outside in the, on our headsets and we're like stuck in the oasis or something. But yeah, that would be horrible. But who knows where the future holds, right?
Right, right. Especially with AI and how quickly that's rising.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary to think what the future could look like. Just have to wait and see. Uh, Connor, a little while ago, you had mentioned Doctor Who. Would you like to talk about Doctor Who for a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
I watched your episode on Doctor Who, um, and I myself, I actually never watched an episode of Doctor Who until a year ago. Uh, but I was watching. My wife bought the DVD set of, I think it was the 12th Doctor. Was that David Tennant?
It was that was 12th Doctor. I was about to say Matt Smith. No, that was Peter Capaldi. So
Okay,
he was like the older one.
okay, it was whichever season had David Tennant the first time around.
Okay, so
Uh,
that was the 10th Doctor. That's all right. That's
okay. Well, I thought that was pretty good. I enjoyed a lot of those episodes. It's pretty interesting, and uh, that's quite a feat to have a show that's been like they've been making Doctor Who since when, the 60s?
yeah. It's been going on for about 60 odd years. So I can't do the maths in my head when it started off the top of my head, but yeah, no, it's been going on for a very long time. I mean, when it first started off, that it was still realistically there was no comics based off of it. There was no books. There was no nothing. I believe the show was this like it was created from that, and then the source material came from there. But I remember I've seen like a little bit of because they've had what they classified as how they classify as classic Who, which was the back when it first started out, and then New Who when it got rerun back in 2005 with Christopher Eccleston for the first season, and then David Tennant, and then all the others from the other ones. But I've done some like research into it, and I've seen little bits of the classic Who, but yeah, it's so different compared to what we have now for Doctor Who. But again, that they knew that they wanted, I guess, an alien like traveling around, but again, they didn't know if he would be yeah, he would change his face or anything because they thought they'd have the first guy they had. I forgot his name, off the top of my head, for like for maybe a while, and then unfortunately he sort of just was getting really sick and getting ill. And I guess the way that they wanted to keep the show going without really having to sort of change anything is they came up with the idea that well, the Doctor, the way that he saves himself, the way the Time Lords do stuff is they sort of regenerate and then change their whole body and change their face. It's still them, but they're a complete still them, but also not. They're like a completely different person, and that sort of was the main core of the show, and that's how they were able to go 60 odd years with it because they just get the old one to regenerate, get a new actor, and then continue on from there, get a whole new cast, get new companions, all of that. And I didn't like, I mean, again, yeah, when it started, it was obviously way before I was born, but when I was a kid, like I'd seen a couple things here and there, but it was probably not until like maybe, like 2 years ago that I actually got into it because funnily enough, there was a Marvel movie called Mobius, which I don't know if you heard of that one. It was like a vampire Marvel movie. It kind of, it was horrible. It flopped. But but Matt Smith was in it, and he was one of the doctors. He was the 11th Doctor after David Tennant. And I saw him, and I was like, huh, maybe I should watch Doctor Who. And I just started from the start of New Who. I haven't watched Classic Who. I have watched bits. I need to go to it, and then I just sort of loved it from there. And it's an interesting show. It's insane how long they've gone with it. So
Yeah, what's the appeal of it for you?
um I guess sort of the again, as I said, probably the sci-fi of it. I love sci-fi stuff and just how I don't know, he's just sort of a guy that can just he has a box. He can travel around the universe. Like I would love to do that. If I would kill to just travel around the universe, like and just see the stars and see the planets. I always you always look up in the stars and you wish like, well, there's a whole world out there. Like you know, there's stuff that we haven't seen, and who knows if we will see. I mean, we have there's astronauts that go out there and with the moon landing, which people believe is fake or not. I'm not too sure about it. I don't know why they would fake it, But yeah, no, it's interesting. It's just, he gets to go travel the world, travel the universe, and then he can just come back to come back to whatever time he wants. Really, it's and just, but even that, the story of it and how even with the New Who, like the way that the Doctor deals with, because he's the last of his time because of when he mentions at the start of the New Who, the time war, like between his people and the Daleks, which are like one of his enemies. And then he sort of has, and that bases the story of how he has this sort of, well, the Time Lords are sort of kind of like gods because they used to, manage, like, watch the flow of time and whatever. And now it's just up to him. So he sort of has that god complex, and it gets very tricky for him to know what to, not, he knows when he has to intervene and when he can't intervene because some events have to stay that way. And it's very hard for him because he has to sort of be a passenger and what happens, because there's events that he can't change, because then if he alters time, then, you know, shit happens.
Yeah, and
So it's very
it's a kind
interesting that
of
he has to deal with all that stuff. That's sort of why I probably liked it. But yeah.
it's kind of a lonely life he leads too. I mean, he has companions, but some of them die and others go on to other things. Um, yeah, it's. I don't think I'd want to be a Time Lord. How about you?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems fun traveling while I'm doing all that, but I don't know if I want to be a Time Lord either. You live, yeah, again, he regenerates, but then, as he says, humans don't. They die, they leave, and yeah. And one of the reasons why he brings them along is because, as much as he loves traveling, he's seen almost a lot of stuff in his time that he's lived. So he brings on those new companions to sort of see it in their eyes. And that's sort of how he still gets the enjoyment out of traveling, because they're the companions haven't seen it and it's fresh and it's new for them. So he gets the enjoyment out of that. But then again, I guess as well, yeah, it stops him from being lonely. So
Yeah. Uh, it would be cool though, like you said, to kind of just travel around the universe, and because even when an astronaut goes up into space, like they're only seeing like a tiny fraction of what's out there, and there's like so many planets and solar systems we have no idea even exist,
yeah,
and just makes you think, what's out there. There has to be life out there somewhere, and just makes you like wonder like what form is it, like other humans or like lizard people or who knows what, could be anything really.
yeah, we don't know. We don't know.
Yeah. Um, any other kind of TV shows that you enjoy a lot?
Um, trying to think of some off the top of my head. I mean, with all I would say I'm a big Marvel fan as well, and I really loved the Marvel movies as a kid. And then with obviously streaming services, as we said, taking over, Disney made their own streaming service, Disney Plus, and the all the show they made shows off that using Marvel. I liked a couple of them. I feel like they did all right. I mean, some of them weren't as great. The one of the newest ones at the moment, Agatha All Along, which has got the two last episodes, which I haven't watched them yet. They came out on Thursday, but I don't know. I was sort of been delaying it, been watching other things, and then gonna get to it. But I did like the Loki series because I felt that in the movies, Loki wasn't. He was an untapped character. He was sort of the big bad in the Avengers movie, sending all the Shatari, which are like these flying aliens, to like New York, and then they really never explored him. Like, I mean, they did. They touched upon his story and touched upon how he wanted to be a ruler and all that stuff, but it was never really solely about him. So when the show Loki came along, we get to explore more of him and what makes him tick, and it was quite good. And it was during the phase of sort of, you know, well, in the same phase of when they started off with doing all the time stuff, like, going through the multiverse and everything. So we see Loki jumping through he's with the Time Variance Authority, he's sort of managing the sacred timeline, which is like the one timeline to stop them being multiverses and different universes. But stuff happens, and yeah, I guess it doesn't really stay the one universe as people expected. But
I kind of lost track of the Marvel movies after Endgame. I don't know, like I enjoyed it. It was fun watching them, but then just after that, think I kind of lost interest a little bit. Like, are the newer movies worth watching?
I mean, some of them are. Some of them are. It's tricky. I mean, yeah, I feel like a lot of people lost interest after Endgame, and I probably would have too if I wasn't probably a massive Marvel fan. Like I've grown up on Marvel. I mean, I'm wearing a Deadpool hat. Um, I've just sort of grown up on it, and I loved it. And again, it was just I don't know. It was just I felt like I could fit in with these like superheroes, and then just all their powers. And it was just cool. It was really cool. Um, but yeah, again, yeah, I don't know. After Endgame, it did kind of take a dip. It's probably not as good as it used to be. I mean, there's some good ones. As I said, Loki was a good show. And then I'm trying to think what are some good movies. The Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, that was alright. It wasn't the best. But yeah, look, it again, I guess as all things, sort of continue on, as much as you like to continue and make sequels of something or continue something and keep it going, eventually, as much as you want it to stay good, it could people have different opinions and people might think it's bad, and yeah, nothing stays, I guess, good forever. So I feel like kind of after Endgame, it kind of sort of worn off. It's a bit hit or miss now these days with all the Marvel stuff. So yeah.
Are you into the comics at all?
Yeah, I would say I'm into the comics. I watched the movies before I got into the comics because that was sort of I wasn't really much of a big reader as a kid. I sort of struggled with reading for a while, but I mean, I guess you don't really read much in comics, but I didn't really know there were comics until like later on. I thought sort of not gonna lie, I thought the movies were the first thing. I realized, oh, hang on, they're based off stuff, aren't they? They're not, you know. So then I did go into my first comic book store and buying my first comic, and yeah, it was yeah, I do like the comics. They're good, and it's interesting to see how obviously it's not copy and paste from the comics. It's based off the comics and they change it, which I guess is the same for when movies do adaptations of, or books do where they get the adaptation from a movie from a book to a movie. Sorry. So, because if you make it copy and paste, then I guess people who read the book they wouldn't enjoy it because they've seen it already or read it already. So,
Yeah, and even with the comics, like a lot of them, they have like all these different timelines and stuff too. So you could read like one series about the X-Men, and it has nothing to do with this other series about the X-Men. And see, that part can get a little bit confusing for me sometimes, just like keeping track of, like which is part of which series, and is this one connected to this one. But yeah, I enjoy reading comics too. Uh, but do you have a favorite like comic character?
um, that's yeah. Favorite comic book character. Oh, that's interesting. I would probably have to say, and I mean even the show of his as well, which was on Netflix at the time, now on Disney Plus now, obviously because owned by Disney. But Daredevil, I would probably have to say, I really enjoyed his like storyline, and even like when they pretty much there's like a comic which is Daredevil. I forgot what the name of it was. I think it's Daredevil Born Again, and it's basically where because he's lawyer by day and then vigilante by night, and no one knows that he's a vigilante. Like the people that know, yeah, no one knows his real identity. So then in this issue, which was in season 3 on the Netflix show, his identity gets revealed to one of his like worst enemies, the Kingpin, and then shit happens from that, and his life, you know his lawyer life gets affected by that because the Kingpin wants to hunt him down because they're enemies. So, but it's interesting, and he has that you know how he starts off in the show is that yeah he gets blind by an accident, and then he starts to develop. He just well obviously better hearing, and then yeah, he starts to hear, like in the show, he says he starts to hear all the pain in the city, and he didn't realize how much pain there was. So he felt like he had to sort of step up, and I guess he sort of has. he feels like he has to do that, which is so it's a very interesting sort of concept for a character.
Yeah. Connor, what's your go-to music?
Go to music. I'd probably have to say, uh, I'm into rock, like rock music. Rock music's all I've always loved. I mean, I can't. I probably loved more pop music as a kid, and still, I would say I still like pop music. Again, I'm sort of probably one of the reasons why I made the podcast is because I can talk about like any sort of pop culture. I can really realistically listen to any type of music, and if it sounds nice, I'll listen to it. But if there's obviously, as I said, if there's a go-to genre I would stick to, it'd probably be like rock. So like classic rock, like maybe say probably Nirvana, Green Day, Soundgarden, all those types of stuff. Like the 90s and 80s sort of type rock. That's probably my go-to.
What's the last concert you've been to?
Oh, it was the one that happened in. So it obviously happened in Sydney, Australia for me. Well, and it was Tenacious D, which is Jack Black's band, and there was 2 nights of it. Right, and I went to the first night, which was amazing, and then the second night, um, it was just when the assassination attempt happened on Trump, and it was very new. It was like pretty much the same day that the second concert was happening. It happened the day before or something, and then the not Jack Black but his mate Kyle made a joke about it on stage, and because of that, and the way the world is of how you know people get triggered over these types of things, and because it was very new, they had to postpone the whole tour. So it ended at that show. So I've got a shirt which is the tour dates are not like accurate anymore because they had to end it at the Sydney one. They were going to go to like New Zealand, like the rest of Australia, like Melbourne, Canberra, and then they go New Zealand. They were doing a whole like Australian sort of area trip, and they had to cancel it because of the one joke that he made, which is crazy. You know, look, it's just the way the world is. At least I got to see it. I can't complain, but I feel sorry for people that didn't get to see it just because of just one joke, which is crazy how the world is now these days. We're so we're so sensitive about those things. But hey, yeah,
Yeah, but that's cool though. Uh, I've never seen Tenacious D live. I listened to their first album they put out. I enjoyed that quite a bit. Jack Black's a funny guy. Do you like his
yeah,
movies too?
yeah. I love his movies. He's great. I really liked him in Jumanji. I probably prefer the original Jumanji movie with Robin Williams, which again another great funny actor. He's great,
Yes.
but I did like Jack Black in that. And then interesting to see Jack Black in Mario movies Bowser, and then they had him playing the piano and singing, which was interesting. I never thought I would see the day that Bowser's on the piano singing a song about Princess Peach. So that
That was a
wasn't on
fun
my
movie.
bingo cards for that year, but that was a fun movie. And I can't think of any movies off the top of my head. School of Rock. Love that movie. That's probably my all-time favorite Jack Black movie.
I haven't
It's
seen that
so
one.
him as well. Like he is a rocker at heart, and then he just gets this band of kids because his character's he doesn't have anything to do. He doesn't have a job, and then he accidentally picks up the phone and pretends to be the teacher, and then gets these kids to do this battle of the bands with him, and yeah.
Connor, so you have your Media Magpie podcast. Um, do you have plans for any other kind of projects? Like, have you ever thought about trying to like maybe make your own comic book or anything related to media like that you'd like to try?
Um, that's a really good question. I haven't really thought of anything as of yet. I think I've only just really started my podcast. I'm only up to episode 9 at the moment, which hasn't been released yet, but I'm gonna record that soon and upload that soon. But no, I think I'm gonna focus on this for the time being. And look, who knows where stuff comes. I would say that I have thought about, making a comic book before, but I'm not really much. I wouldn't say I'm really much of a storyteller myself, so I wouldn't know what to do on that. But no, it's look again. Who knows where the future holds? I might do different things, but I think at the moment I'll focus on this. At the moment, don't want to overcomplicate and focus on too many things at once.
Yeah. Uh, would you like to give us a sneak peek at your newest episode that you're going to record?
Sure. Yeah. So I have posted about it, but the newest episode, which it's on, I mean, it's on a movie that literally the first rule of it is to not talk about it. Fight Club. So I'm going to be talking about that, which, funnily enough, I hadn't seen until I believe it was last year or sometime this year, early this year, if I'm correct. And I somehow survived not knowing the ending of the movie because a lot of people that I knew never saw the movie, but because it had been out and they stumbled upon something, they got the ending spoiled. But I never knew the ending. I somehow avoided it. And yeah, it's an interesting movie. It's really interesting. It's like a guy who struggles with, you know, he has trouble sleeping. He has, I think it's insomnia, and he's just working the desk job, and then he finds this this soap cellar, and they sort of make this underground fight club, and then stuff goes from there, and then it gets and then it just gets a bit chaotic. But it's very you have to really like it when you're watching the movie. You sort of question a lot of the things that happen, and then you sort of and I was questioning. I was wondering, like, hang on, is this real or what's happening? And it's an interesting movie. It really makes you sort of think, and that's sort of what intrigued me about it. And I think that's something I have to talk about.
Okay. Do you have like um a certain process that determines what you're going to talk about, or is it just whatever is kind of interesting you at the moment?
Yeah, I guess it's sort of just the stuff that interests me, and I feel like that's what's sort of interesting to talk that people would find intriguing. But again, it's sort of something stuff that I would really like to talk about, and that I feel like I can passionately talk about it. It's not like it's forced, like I have to forcefully talk about it, and I have to sort of like I do my research on it, but realistically, I do know a lot about the stuff already. It's sort of the other maybe behind the scenes stuff that I need to do the research on, and maybe a couple names of people that have been in it if I don't know them. But it's usually stuff I've enjoyed. But then again, I do want people to. I haven't made probably a big enough fan base for it yet, but I would love people to actually give me like stuff to do, because if people give me new stuff to watch or new stuff to listen to, again, I'd be happy to like listen to it and then talk about it. But at the moment, it's all the stuff that sort of I've watched in the past or watching currently, I guess. And I've got a whole list that I've already made. I've got a whole page of it. I'm just sort of picking ones that I feel like's best at the moment and just cycling through those.
All right, very cool. Well, Connor, people can find you on Spotify. You have a YouTube channel, the Media Magpie podcast. Any other social media links you'd like to throw out there?
Uh, I mean that's pretty much it. Yeah, just the YouTube, which is the Media Magpie, and then and then my Instagram, and and then it's just on Spotify. And then if you don't use Spotify, I also have the podcast on Apple Music and Amazon Music. So those are two other options.
All
But
right.
just the main one's the Instagram for socials.
Okay. All right. Very cool, Connor. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been great talking to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to thank those of you for joining us. If you'd like to learn more about the podcast, you can find me on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook. And I will see you guys next time. Take care, everybody.